We've been doing DevOps for quite some time. It's really difficult to provide an overview of our DevOps services because our DevOps services tend to be bespoke for every single customer that uses them. There's some patterns, but there's not that many formulas that work everywhere. Every company is different. Every group of people is different. Every outcome that they're trying to achieve with the philosophy that is DevOps, right? Every outcome that they're trying to achieve is different. So, but there are some patterns that do kind of make sense. One of those is one of the patterns we use quite often is a state of DevOps report. So the idea is that you want to understand as an organization, like where, based on modern engineering and DevOps practices, where are we? Where do we sit? Because it's difficult to understand where you want to go unless you know where you are right now. That's the first thing you do when you have a map and you're trying to figure out how to get somewhere, is you have to find out where you are so that you can then figure out what direction to go. So that kind of state of DevOps, state of Agile, state of DevOps, where are we right now in our understanding of our application of DevOps practices? So we might talk about things like how are products being released. We might talk about things like, how are products being released? What sort of tools are being used within that context of releasing products? I worked with an organization that had 13 different source control systems in use for one product, right? So there's a lot of waste there that can be identified. What are we actually doing? How do we take the ideas that we've created in our product and how do they actually get into production? And not just what leadership thinks is happening, but what's actually happening on the ground. So we tend to interview a bunch of people in the organization, usually try and do solo interviews because people are more willing to speak when there's not somebody else and it's kind of anonymous information. And we find out all sorts of things. Like, I worked with an organization that was, their team of 30 engineers understood branching, but they didn't understand automatic merging. So they were manually copying code with a text diffing tool between branches in order to merge code, which is just mental. I worked with an organization that had built a custom tool because the business had asked for a capability. They built a custom tool that allowed product managers to pick features and create a build of the product that only had those features merged together into the product, which might sound like a good idea if you're on the business side, but from an engineering standpoint and creating a cohesive, valid, high quality, usable, high value product, that's totally insane. There's all sorts of things that are known dysfunctional behaviors. I tend to call them opportunities for improvement, right? Because it's a little bit more positive, but the reality is they're dysfunctional behaviors that are really common in the industry and have been for many years, because people are pushed towards solving a problem and they don't necessarily know that there are known logical ways to solve that problem already. And even if they do know about those known logical ways to solve that problem, somebody in the business has an objection to it. A great one is automatic deployments, right? And the objection might be that we're under SOX audit. You know, we're Sarbanes-Oxley compliant, therefore we need a separation of developers from the people who do develop the code, the people who do releasing the code, and that means that we can't have developers with access to production. That's actually not true with Sarbanes-Oxley, not true at all. But because somebody believes it is, you then end up with these ideas where development and operations is a separate thing. One of the biggest values that we bring, biggest benefit that we bring to organizations when we're talking about the DevOps philosophy, bringing the practices that help fulfill that philosophy into organizations, is that ability for higher quality, more frequent delivery, less friction in your ability to get software out the door. And that idea that it's some of it's just about ownership, that idea of ownership. If it's you have an idea, you're going to build that idea, you're going to deploy that idea, you're going to monitor that idea, and you're responsible for the upkeep of that idea, the support and continued value add of that idea. And that should all be within the control of the group, the team, right? So ideation all the way through to deployment and closing those feedback loops should be part of that story, and that's very difficult to do within a lot of organizations. So what are the steps that you can do to get towards that? What are the tools that you can use to ensure that you meet the compliance that you need to meet, right? In order to continue to meet your compliance, but do these new things. And how do you maintain quality, right? How do you maintain the level of quality if, for example, you're not doing UAT, because UAT is a cost center, not a value center for software engineering. If your UAT is a value center because it finds stuff and protects your business, then we've not got high enough quality delivery of our product. But if we create that high enough quality and UAT becomes a cost center, we want to get rid of those cost centers. How do we ensure that we don't end up with in the same situation as CrowdStrike, right? There's a great example of an organization recently in the news that caused massive disruption. I think they're going to be sued by Delta for $500 million that Delta has lost over the week, that they had a problem, which part of that is their own problem with DevOps. But what could CrowdStrike have done differently? Well, they didn't. One of the things they didn't do was control the blast radius, right? You don't just deploy to production. You don't just deploy to 100. I'm not sure exactly how many machines run CrowdStrike, but you don't deploy to all of them at the same time. That's insanity. Even Windows, who have very high quality in the product that they ship, they deploy to a small number of people first, right? They control the blast radius. What are our lowest impact customers, or customers that would be impacted the least by an outage, and deploy to them first? Perhaps deploy to our own systems first and run it for a few days, see if there's any problems, monitoring, right? Monitoring that feature and that capability that's being deployed. Not deploying on a Friday. The best time to deploy is Monday morning when everybody comes in, because you get a whole week to fix any problems. Deploying on Friday is probably not the best idea. There's all kinds of things that make logical sense and are within the context of this DevOps story that we can help educate, coach, and engage with your team, your engineers, as well as with your business and your leadership, to understand what these things are, what value you get from them, and how you maintain your ability to control risk within this new world of continuous delivery to production.